They asked for what to do a reaction of tonight. Yeah. Oh, actually, I got just the one. Yep. Joshscorcher's top 15 worst consoles. Mainly because I tried to do a reaction of this once, but I completely forgot to turn on the audio, so. Which villain do I like? Good question, actually. Actually, but, I kind of got a lot of good options. There's Death the Wolf, who's a force of nature villain. There's N, who's also a tragic villain. Then you have all the Kirby bosses, which are basically just cosmic horrors that he just inevitably beats up. Yeah, it's a pretty broad list. Oh, classics. Yeah, it's fine. You go do practice. Stuff's important. Alright, so anyway, let's go ahead and get started on the reaction. And while also getting started on the drawing. Yes.
Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Currently, these are the three core console manufacturers. Since the early 2000s, their battle has defined generations of consoles. With them being household names, it's easy to forget that there have been plenty of other contenders in the ring. I wouldn't blame you for not knowing about a lot of these, considering how short-lived they were. Of course, there's more to a console than just bad games, since having bad games doesn't make a console automatically terrible. There are several more factors. Before we get into the metrics which we'll be measuring these by, a few ground rules. 1. No knockoffs or bootlegs. These have to be officially licensed and sold. 2. Cloud.
Yeah, that's a shame. I was kind of looking forward to seeing the Soldier Boy consoles. Oh, yeah, Nightbot's just kind of trigger happy. Sorry about that. Worst part is I have to deal with Nightbot's antics, so...
Cloud gaming services are allowed if they have consoles that don't require PCs. 3. No plug-and-play consoles. They're way too easy to mock and don't really count in my eyes.
Yeah, I also don't count the plug-and-play consoles since a lot of them just kind of cost either, like, $30 or $50, and honestly, that's just chump change.
As for the criteria, oh boy, take a seat. 1. Bad and or limited library of games. Consoles are kind of pointless without them after all. 2. Overpriced console or games. And yes, we will be adjusting for inflation. a lot. 3. Bad and or deceptive marketing. Marketing is far from easy. As you'll see though, some people really try hard to suck at it. 4. Bad hardware. Pretty self-explanatory. Bonus points for bad controllers. 5. Bad business practices like corruption and such. Once again, pretty self-explanatory. 6. Lack of standard features for the time. Lack of backwards compatibility, bad online if offered, etc. 7. Bad production. Not a bad thing by itself, but when it results in a thing like this, well, yeah. 8. Bad gimmicks. If it doesn't contribute to the overall experience, if it feels tacked on, it becomes a factor.
Got it memorized?
Before we get started on this roller coaster of history, I want you to pay special attention to adjusting for inflation, because you really...
Worst game that I've played? Probably Sticker Star. Yeah, definitely Sticker Star. I mean, it's not just because it's, disappointing follow-up to a franchise I enjoy. Legitimately, even barring that, it's actually just a really bad game in general. Honestly, if it had Super Paper Mario's gameplay, I don't think it would be as hated as it already is. Heck, I think it'd probably be an improvement.
You do begin to realize how much your parents sacrificed all their hard-earned money. If they unfortunately bought you one of these consoles, be sure to tell them how much you appreciate them. Say what you will about Nintendo, but back then, they've always been consistent with their production goals. They may not milk the console scene as much as Sega did, but with what few platforms they had, they made the most out of it. Of course, for every hit system, there's gotta be that curveball that threw them for a loop. Enter Virtual Boy, Nintendo's dinosaur age headset console, advertised with the eye-catching gimmick of experiencing games in 3D. Now, to its credit, the Virtual Boy does have some good games. A few decent platformers, puzzle games, and even some first-person games that take advantage of the virtual reality concept. Here's the problem, though. Most of these games hardly make use of the console's gimmick of experiencing virtual reality. Instead, it often capitalizes on depth gimmicks to give us an illusion of 3D, even though these can be done on any other console and still look the same. So really, all you get for playing these games on this system specifically is a migraine and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually do have to ask, James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd, mentioned that, suggested that Doom be ported on the Virtual Boy, but would it really have helped the system at all? Probably just be a shoddy Doom port.
Get used to all those crimson pixels because they're not leaving your irises. To make matters worse, only a handful of the games were released in North America, with half of the entire library unlocalized and a few more canceled due to the console's failure. Given that it's sold for $175, with an adjustment for inflation at $315, why fork your wallet for this mess when you could just buy a Game Boy? Talk about self-competition.
Maintain dominance! Not a chance. My mind stronger than you.
If I had $1 for every dated product that promoted fake 3D, I'd have enough to buy 8 double cheeseburgers. Which is a lot, but just not as much as I expected.
Sadly, in this economy, that'd only be like 1 double cheeseburger now. Fucking tariffs.
It goes without saying that this is Nintendo's worst performing console, hardly lasting for a year with only 770,000 units sold. On the bright side, while it failed the virtual reality scene, it did pave a way for the bigger and better headset consoles that we have today. Even Nintendo ain't ashamed to reference this little fella every so often. I really can't be too mean to this console. It tried to do something new for its time, and while it didn't do it well, it's mostly pretty harmless. Well, except for the eyes.
Yeah.
Let's be fair here. For all of the console's kinks, it didn't really hurt anyone enough to warrant a lawsuit, unlike the N64.
R.I.P. Mario Party players.
On the first day of Christmas, RCA gave to me a telephone? A keyboard? No.
Oh yeah, I remember this thing. It was... Okay, so a little bit of background. I actually remember a video called Top 10 Worst Consoles You've Never Heard Of by Bennett the Sage. Apparently this console was also featured on the list, and amazingly, as an amazing coincidence, both he and Joshscorcher chose the exact same #1 entry. I won't spoil that just yet, but yeah, one of these days I should probably do a reaction to that video as well. And maybe Cougar Larry's worst console list, since he actually had a couple good suggestions for that one.
No, seriously, what is this thing? Actually, it's one of the very first consoles to play ROM cartridges, the RCA Studio 2, aka RCA's attempt at outgunning the console that got away. Created in 1977, back when video games were still blossoming, this barely managed to survive for only a year. Its biggest
Is Wooden
competitors
Man's
were the
background
ColecoVision
stage.
Television and the Atari 2600.
One of the few non-wood consoles from today.
It didn't stand a chance. It only sold around 60,000 units. Compare that to the PS3's 87.3 million, and you really get a sense of the scope. So what happened? How did the RCA fall short at the finish line? Its going price back then was $149, which, thanks to inflation, measures up to about $657 nowadays. But was it worth the price? Not really. Unlike other consoles, it didn't have color, which really hurt its stand in the market. And it didn't even have a joystick. Instead, it just had number keypads for controls on the console. Not that they helped, considering how unplayable most of its library was. Looking back, it's kind of weird picking on this one, since it came out during a time where standards weren't really high for gaming. Then again, you look a little deeper and see how it did everything wrong. It tried to one-up its competition, only to fall flat, and it feels even more dated than it was supposed to. But hey, it did bring us something amazing. Joyce Weisbecker, the console creator's daughter, learned how to program the device and became the first lady commercial game designer. Not bad, Boomer. Gosh, I felt dirty saying that.
Word.
You strap this console onto your head and look into the screen. Within is another dimension. A dimension of empty ideas, stiff animations, and nauseating visuals. You're moving into a world that makes you question why you even trusted Tiger Electronics to make a worthwhile product to begin with. You just crossed over into the R-Zone.
Oh man, this console's fucking hilarious.
Tiger Electronics' attempt to compete with Nintendo on the VR scene back in 1995. It even has its own brand of scorching red, eye-frying games. Except,
Yeah. A discount Virtual Boy. That is the level of fail that we're on for this console.
this time, instead of wearing it like a headset, you strap it on like a visor. An obvious move to cash in on style points 20 years early.
Wear Google Glass without looking like a dweeb. Okay, maybe not.
Then there's the controller. Man, is this thing ugly. The buttons are stiff, and it's got so many menu options that it's easy to confuse them and press the wrong one. Good thing the off button is close by, though, because that's clearly the most important one here. And the games? It's the same juvenile LCD gameplay you get with a Happy Meal. aka every other Tiger game. There's no 3D, no use of VR, nothing. The immersion gimmick is completely pointless, so much they made a handheld version of the game to amend that. Granted, it handles better, but they're still improving over burnt garbage. The R-Zone is no more than a glorified accessory that squeezes itself in between the console market for a quick buck. Granted, it's cheap enough to last a couple years, but there's still no novelty to be had here. The LCD graphics aren't charming anymore, even in Tiger's prime. Nintendo may have had its days with the Game & Watch, but even they knew when to leave the scene. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer that anything made by Tiger at the time hardly warrants professional judgment. It feels a bit redundant to pick on this company, really, especially since they didn't charge much for this thing. But if you're gonna put yourself in the same market as Nintendo and Sega and claim you can hang with the big boys, then the scorn that comes with it is all on you.
I mean, to be fair, it's really hard to improve on garbage,
Okay,
so...
whose idea was it to make a phone into a gaming device? In 2003? Yeah, now I got your attention.
Oh man, I remember when mobile games were still experimenting with what they wanted to be. I miss those days. We went way too hard on the mobile ports.
I don't really know what spurred Nokia to get into the gaming game, but it didn't really work out well for them. They were one of the top mobile phone developers at the time, and because the game Snake was preloaded onto most of their phones, they became one of the first pioneers of mobile gaming. Too bad when it came time to create a console that appealed to adults and to defeat the kid-centric Game Boy Advance. Seriously, that was their ideology. They would sink at the first hurdle with the N-Gage. Here's the first problem. They made the buttons the same as a normal mobile phone at the time, and anyone my age or older knows that those buttons barely worked for a phone, never mind a game console. Second, battery life made an iPhone's battery look like a nuclear power plant. And the third and most prevalent and important problem, you looked utterly ridiculous using this to take calls because of the mic placement. Even though it was 2003, years before viral mockery hit the mainstream, the internet memed pretty hard on this side talk and talk.
Oh, speaking of memes, here's a very infamous fact about the Nokia N-Gage. If Guru Larry's apparently to be believed, the console was actually modeled after the infamous Goatsy image. Not gonna unsee that once you actually look at it. That does paint the question how no one caught it back then.
Now, while you won't get gas from eating this thing, it does make you queasy thinking about Nokia's marketing. Like I mentioned, they thought it would be an alternative to the kid-friendly Game Boy Advance and SP, but it didn't make a splash. So much so that Nokia
Well, it certainly wasn't modeled after anything kid-friendly.
completely mixed up the shipping and selling numbers. They shipped 400,000 copies and only sold 6,000. But they told everyone they sold 400,000 and later admitted that they were wrong. Gotta love it. Now, I will give Nokia some credit. The N-Gage QD they released in 2004 was a massive improvement that made the device more user-friendly and sold it at a lower price. Plus, they had two successful games with Pocket Kingdom, Own the World, and Pathway to Glory. But even with those boons, the N-Gage was already gasping for air by the release, and in 2006, it was discontinued. While the N-Gage was an interesting device and had a good concept behind it, it was just too early for a game phone hybrid console when the Game Boy Advance and later the PSP and DS just blew them out of the water. Nowadays, mobile gaming is so big that it's suffocating to a degree, but back then, it just wasn't enough to engage audiences.
You know what? I'll kill my co-writers later. Bigger fish to fry. Okay, guys, I gotta be honest. The name of this one is really fun to say. And that's about the only good thing I can say about it.
At first, no one even knew what the Nuon was. It was kept under tight wraps and just called Project X, and was advertised as the true contender against the other next big consoles. What did we actually get? A DVD player that could play certain games. Wow! What a unique and revolutionary concept at the time! Except when the PlayStation 2 came out the same year and did it too. And guess which one came out on top?
No, the other guy, the one in the hat. Hey, I have a hat.
Yeah, VM Labs' ambitious little science project didn't stand a chance against Sony's juggernaut. But why? Well, for starters, it had a really limited library with only 8 games and 4 movies to its name. At least half of those games were either ports or rip-offs, and the movies were titles that no one would ever ask for, such as the essential Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. I'm disappointed for you. Also, just look at the price. Originally selling for $499, which would make it $774 after inflation. Now compare it to the PS2, which could also play DVDs and had a humongous library, and ask yourself, why would I pay $200 more for a console that offers less?
$299.
Holy
Turns out
shit.
a lot of consumers asked that same question, hence why the new one only lasted about 3 more years before it was discontinued, just after VM Labs' closure. Kind of a shame. It had a few decent games and wasn't really broken, but that's a circle of progress, unfortunately.
Still, bummer to say. Yeah, on.
Yeah, at least Tempest was pretty okay. And hard to screw up Tempest.
Okay, the next console is the Pippin.
Pippin? Thought we were done with musical theater.
No, Bandai created a console called the Pippin.
So, nothing to do with the musical.
Gosh, I hope not.
You know how Nintendo and Philips worked together to make a console? Well, Apple and Bandai Namco did the same thing back in the 90s, and theirs was almost as bad? Pretty bad. The Pippin...
You know, interestingly enough, I only know about the Pippin because because it had a remake of an old childhood game I played. It's a relatively obscure one called Journeyman Pegasus Prime. It's an old point-and-click adventure game. Sequels had FMV cutscenes. But it adds a lot of nostalgia for me. I never really played the sequels.
Or the Pippin at Mark or at World, because someone just had to have dumber names before Square Enix. Whatever you want to call them, these were originally released in Japan and worldwide in 1996. And it was honestly pretty dead on arrival. For one, its price point was $599 US. In 1996, which is more than $1,000 today. And for those lucky Americans who did have $600 in 1996, the most they got for games were sucky education games. Europe was even worse since it only got one game while Japan got all the good ones. Well, decent ones, mostly being the occasional Gundam, Dragon Ball, and whatever weird properties Bandai had at the time. Even with those decent games, though, the Pippin only sold 42,000 units and was discontinued in 1997, a year later. And that's pretty much it. It was a failed console from the beginning and didn't last long at all. Though I can also make fun of its controller called the Applejack. Okay, I don't know if I want to make a pony joke, a cereal joke, or even a boomerang joke since it looks like a boomerang hit a Game Boy.
You could go with Sony's old controller design. Or the... Well, for the PS3 anyways. Anyone remember the boomerang controller concept? I think we dodged a bullet with that one.
Boy, I guess I could go into more specifics about the confused hardware choices and the apparent internal confusion about whether or not it was supposed to be a game console or a computer, but we got other stuff to get to. So
I'm drawing a PNG avatar for Maractus OC, specifically my Maractus Zona. Probably gonna use it for my Gen 5 Dream Team hunting. Ah, thanks. It'll probably look better when it's done.
So, yeah, the Pippin is not only a bad console, it isn't even that noteworthy either. The most
So,
respect I can give it is sending it up
Conclusion, stick with getting a gaming Mac.
Throw yourself in next time and rid us of your stupidity.
Around the tail end of 2019, Google offered to the world an experience known simply as Stadia, a cloud gaming system that boasted a whole library of games to play on your TV and smart devices without the bulkiness of your regular console. Gamers were excited, especially Twitch streamers. At last, the world welcomed Stadia with open arms, and
This sucks more than anything that has ever sucked before.
it bombed. Big time. This absolutely terrible launch really highlighted Google's poor marketing. It barely explained how to get the Stadia working properly, and instead, all we got was this really bizarre, misleading commercial that kinda dunks too much on other console gaming options. And that's not even getting into the controversies with
Oh man, I remember this. Controversy. It actually gets you. I'll probably elaborate on a little fact once the
streamers. Not only do you have to jump through more hoops than usual to get it working, but get this. The creative director for Google Stadia, Alex Hutchinson, said that people who stream video games, and I quote, should be paying the developers and publishers of the games they stream.
You're an idiot.
Oh, another interesting fact that Alex Hutchinson actually said this while having his ex-profile pic use artwork of a game he was not part of and was drawn as fan art for a Let's Play for Jacksepticeye. Yeah, that's the level of disconnected we were dealing with. Still, it's not the worst thing Google ever put out. There's still Google Plus.
Surrounding circumstances aside, let's look at the system itself. That library of titles, really limited, and you have to buy them from the Stadia store on top of the $10 a month for the system. And that's barely worth the price since you can't play it properly without a strong enough internet connection. And the graphics are barely up to snuff, especially if you want to try and stream it. Heck, this thing didn't even have a search bar until 9 months after launch. Google did not have a search bar. And notice Google refuses to publish their official sales numbers. Makes it kinda sus if you ask me. If I had to make an educated guess, I'd have to say as of May 2021, around 2 million. Look, I get what they're trying to do. Make cloud gaming more popular. We've seen this attempted before with services like OnLive or PlayStation Now, but it seemed more like OnLive walked off so that the Stadia could run and trip on its face. Seriously, why would anyone want a convenient and spacious console that barely works when the bulky consoles like the Switch?
We could go deeper. That was an Inception joke if you didn't catch it. I wouldn't be surprised, actually. Yeah, I didn't watch Inception either.
Switch or PS5 actually function. And the most surprising part of all, at the time of this video, the Stadia is still alive.
I'm not dead.
It's dead now. Yeah, I know. Easy joke.
Well, he will be soon. He's very ill.
Yeah, Google, who have a history of murdering a lot of their products that aren't profitable, is actually keeping Stadia alive. That very strongly suggests it's still making them money. It might not make sense, but we probably just don't have all the info. Like with Fallout 76, you'd think that all these controversies, obvious problems, and core fundamental issues would be a money sink, but The evidence is clear. People are still playing and enjoying it. Who knows? Maybe this means they'll get better over time. After all, the PS3 proved it can be done. It's too soon to tell, so we'll just have to see if the Stadia can be saved. Or if Google will, once again, pull the plug. In this day and age of 4K gaming, the bit wars seem almost quaint by comparison. It can be easy to take for granted just how big the leap from 8 to 16 was. So when the Jaguar proclaimed itself to be 64-bit, it was a pretty big deal. Was it truly 64-bit? Well, the answer is debatable. Some claim it wasn't actually 64-bit, just two 32-bit processors working in parallel. One thing's for
Ah, yes, the classic, now you're breathing in manual joke. Thank God I have ADHD and continuously need to multitask.
for sure. Atari was so confident in it, they made it into a slogan. As for the games, there were a lot of issues. While there were some worth playing, most of them weren't. This is due to a lack of third-party support, which was due to the games being difficult to program. Though, good luck trying to play any of them with this monstrosity of a controller. Atari's really bad at those now that I think about it. On a side note, the Jaguar really got screwed when it came to overseas markets. It took Atari forever to release it to all of Europe. Germany didn't get it immediately, and Spain got it 2 years later, on April 1st.
Not joking. No pun intended.
Of course, Europe was downright lucky compared to Australia. In 1993, USD to Australia was around 1.5. If there were no tariffs, it would be 375 Australian dollars. But there were tariffs, and they raised it by an additional 325 Australian dollars. In 1993, for Americans, that would have been a $217 tariff. Adjusted for inflation, that's
tariffs.
basically paying
Always screwing over the console
$401
market.
extra for a garbage excuse of a console. Did I do the math, Atari? On top of all that, we have the
dang, that's a
CD
mood.
add-on. Throughout gaming history, console add-ons have seen mixed results, especially when you try to give an add-on to an already struggling console. Given the Jaguar wasn't that great of a system, I'm pretty sure you can figure out how this went. Toilet jokes aside, the Jaguar CD was a mess. Due to a cavalcade of hardware issues, mostly coming from the processors, trying to get one of these to work was an endeavor. Not that there were
Interestingly, Spoony one actually got one to work, and he listed all the problems. Hilariously enough, it could fail with when the CD drive isn't connected, which sometimes it usually is internally. It could fail when it's not able to read CDs. In fact, it could basically fail at the drop of a hat. And I remember when the EVGN reviewed it, he actually sent it to a console modder, and he couldn't even get the thing to work. Man.
there was really much point, given that there were somehow even fewer games on it. Bottom line, the Jaguar failed at nearly every turn. It was intended to bring Atari into the modern era. Sadly, all it did was just toss it into the toilet. I don't think I'm being controversial when I say EA is like a plague upon the gaming industry. And much like a plague, they somehow managed to spread everywhere. Ooh, too soon. Anyways, much like Sega or Atari, EA was once in the business of making consoles. Sort of. The founder of EA, Trip Hawkins, stepped down as EA CEO, and the 3DO was created through a child company. the aptly named 3DO company. However, Hawkins was still serving as EA chair at the time. Does that count as this being EA's console? Well, as long as I get a pick on EA, I'm saying yes. So, what's so bad about the 3DO that gets it on this list? Well, it'd be easier to list what isn't wrong. Point the first, bad console design. Let's face it, humans are vain creatures, and aesthetics can and do make a difference. The 3DO looks like an ancient VHS player. I know people joke about calling the Xbox Series X a brick, but this is just ridiculous. Point the second, price. Yeah, you know you can get a brand new PS5 with a disc player that will set you back about $500 or so, assuming you can get one? A brand new 3DO was asking $700. In 1993, adjusting for inflation, that's a little over $1,300. Yeah, I don't know what they were smoking either. Point the third, marketing.
I mean, to be fair,
actually 9 different.
Yeah, this one I was like, okay, this fact I actually was surprised to learn.
Consoles produced by 4 different manufacturers, and that each 3DO's availability was determined based on your location, and that each 3DO had different specs? No? Me neither, until everyone on the writing team did research for this entry. There was also a promised online function that never came to be. The only redeeming feature of this mess of marketing is that none of the consoles were region locked or had copy protection. Of course, that also made it much easier for hackers to homebrew the 3DOs to high heaven, but...
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the... when I was about to allude to. It's expensive, sure, but you don't need to pay for games anymore. Technically speaking. So I call that a bargain. Oh, thank you. It'll definitely look cuter once I finish it. Oh, I got no. And some more.
But it could have been much worse. Point the fourth, hardware. You know, for a time, the hardware on the 3DO that the world was presented, the Panasonic FZ1, was actually pretty advanced. However, this doesn't save it from some absolutely boneheaded choices. You know how PS2 only has 2 controller ports, but you can get splitters you can put into the ports so you can have up to 8 people playing? Well, someone on the 3DO team thought it would be a good idea to have a single controller port and then have additional controllers connect directly to the first controller. Point the fifth, games library. A console can be
I can see
the
plenty of ways
slice
for
of bread, but there's nothing
daisy
to
chains
play on it,
to
and
go
it's just a
wrong.
lump of plastic. Unfortunately for the 3DO, it launched with only a single game, and its library didn't expand in leaps and bounds from there. The console has a pathetic
it gave us
shallow
Gex.
pool of exclusives, and even its list of ported games isn't exactly the Marianas Trench of possibility. Adding on a liberal license policy that allowed games like Plumbers Don't Wear Ties to exist and be sold on the thing, there really wasn't much reason to have this console. Ultimately, the 3DO was a misguided concept from the start. From a troubled production to some baffling choices in hardware and a couple gimmicks that were pretty worthless, the 3DO just faded into obscurity almost as soon as it was born. R.I.P. 3DO. Sega consoles, boy are we in for a treat. While Nintendo has actually done the smart thing and making good games for their systems, Sega thought they could outplay the competition by making lots and lots of consoles. It's no surprise that most of them blew out their lifespan due to a lack of good games, and the worst offender of that goes to the CD and 32X add-ons. The Sega CD is supposed to be Sega's way of taking a step forward with game consoles, with games running via discs instead of cartridges. While it's not a bad direction, since consoles afterwards did adapt to it, it still runs the issue of complicating the Sega Genesis by being an add-on that doesn't provide you with many worthwhile games. Most of its library is just FMV games with choppy visuals and non-existent gameplay. Even with the few games that hold up, is it really worth paying for a console this expensive, especially when its tech doesn't even age that well anymore? Not really. Oh, but that's just scratching the surface. Following up is the 32X, yet another console extension with barely any good games to show. What it does have to show is a million power adapters to plug in just to get it to work. Oh, and guess what? It costs a lot too. So add this alongside the Sega CD on top of games made to be exclusively played with both add-ons, and you're paying over $500
Yeah, imagine that.
full console price with an inflation of over $970. That's like paying $800 for two separate 360 plus add-ons nowadays.
I mean, in all fairness, this console did have plenty of good titles at the very least. I mean, there's the Knuckles Chaotix, there's Tango, I believe it was called. There was also the... Can't really remember what. Yeah, actually, I can't really remember a whole lot of them. What I'm saying is, yeah, the consoles kind of sucked, but some good came out of it.
Adding insult to injury, 32X is what the US gets as their exclusive console when Japan already has a martial artist beating them over the head. So while the US has to wait 6 months for Saturn, all they can do is build an iron lung for the Genesis and watch it slowly get crushed under its own weight.
Man, we were chipped.
First time.
And it didn't stop there either. There's even the canceled system Neptune, which was originally planned to be a standalone console for 32X. A little confusing, given that 32X was originally codenamed Project Mars, and oh gosh, this is getting a little hard to follow. Looking at what Sega did to their classic console was depressing. The whole thing was one miserable decision after another that ultimately led to the company's financial crisis and pulled it out of the console scene entirely. At least it does serve as a cautionary tale for future console markets to focus on the importance of user-friendly products. Yeah, the attempts at gimmicks are still there, but man,
I mean, we
much
kind of
worse.
learned that already with Atari, but I suppose that lesson needs to be
The Atari
refreshed.
2600 was a legendary titan among classic gaming, and arguably one of the pioneers of mainstream gaming. While it was still going strong, Atari had the idea to try and one-up their own child, the 5200, which boasted better graphics and controller function than its predecessor. Instead, the 5200 fell flat. What really didn't help was that it came out during the video game crash of 1983. Yeah, remember that? Where the gaming industry took a financial downturn thanks to really, really bad games?
I mean, if you were in America anyways. In the UK, the market was still thriving. Yeah, and Japan. Also Japan. I kinda improvise them, honestly.
Of course, the real issues came from the console itself. For starters, look at this thing. It's enormous and bulky. It looks more like a fax machine than a gaming console. Don't get me started on the controller. It was incredibly fragile, really uncomfortable to handle, and it looked more like an old school cell phone with a pause button?
All my life, leading up to...
Oh man, remember days when that was actually a feature? You don't? Christ. Just ask that to a boomer and they'll probably be depressed. Oh, thank you.
to this moment has been worth it. Every last second. I am truly blessed.
Okay, joking aside, the pause button was a genuinely new thing at the time, so that's one good thing about this controller, out of literally nothing else. Other than that, there were also complaints about how the 5200's games were just enhanced versions of its predecessor's titles, and it couldn't play the actual games without an adapter. While it didn't have heavy competition, only going up against Intellivision and ColecoVision, it only managed barely over 1 million sales at $269 for at least 2 years. On the plus side, the outdated 2600 continued to thrive until the 90s, and Atari was a lot more careful with the 7800, with actual backward compatibility, while the 5200 is just a product of bad timing, little effort, and really confusing design choices. We've talked about a couple handheld consoles on this list, but what happens if we talk about a console that was an Android console, but not handheld? Yes, I am sane. Yes, what I'm talking about is real. Yes, I will get to the point and talk about the Ouya. The Ouya was an Android micro console released around...
Ah, Christ. I remember actually contributing to that Kickstarter. I'm honestly thankful he didn't bring up the infamous Ouya commercial.
Originally in 2013, after a successful Kickstarter campaign that
Side note, do not look up the Ouya commercial.
raised over $8 million in 2012. Unfortunately, like a good number of Kickstarter campaigns, what was promised and what was given were two different realities. The console on its own was honestly not that bad. It worked for the most part, but there were some issues. Those being poor connectability with the internet,
Oh, no.
a subpar controller with input lag, oh no, and a poor performance of mobile games compared to when played on mobile.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, those three things are all very important items needed to make a good console. The other thing needed was games, which the Ouya was pretty light on to begin with. To balance, which helped budding developers with funding by matching indie crowdfunding campaigns up to $50,000 as long as the game was Ouya exclusive for the first 6 months. But that didn't do much when the first 2 games successful with this program had reports of people artificially inflating their campaigns to gain additional funding from Ouya. Because of course, whenever someone tries to help the little guy, people always try to find a way to abuse it. While Ouya did fix these
Oh, hey, they know the Kickstarter motto.
issues with the fund, it didn't help their gaming catalog that much. So despite the Kickstarter, the console itself only sold 200,000 units and was deemed a commercial failure. In 2015, the console itself was discontinued and its assets and staff were sold to Razer, who eventually killed the Ouya completely in 2019. This is kind of unfortunate since the Ouya actually had a good premise with a way to make gaming accessible and cheap, and that anyone can make a game for the system without a license. Kind of like Steam.
I mean, we kind of already have PCs, so it's already kind of working.
Greenlight, or the Atari 2600, or the 3DO. Okay, maybe not that good. Nevertheless, when compared to the juggernauts that were the big three console developers and how mobile gaming was already starting to get way better with the release of the iPad and Android tablets, there was no reason to choose a home console that played mobile games worse than a portable phone that was better in performance and accessibility. When it comes to dedicated handheld gaming, Nintendo is the undisputed king of the market. While some territories do better than others, as a whole, their reign has remained unbroken. So whenever a new competitor tries to enter the market, it usually doesn't go over so well. And nowhere is this more evident than with the ill-fated Gizmondo. Originally conceived as the game track.
Oh yeah, the game console, who is only known for their CEO being connected to the mafia. And that is the only thing you'll ever know about this console. Oh, hey, that's design.
by Tiger Telematics, Gizmondo was hyped to hell and back with plenty of promotions and secondary features. As for the games, there were a grand total of 14 of them. And with such games as Sticky Balls and Mama Can I Mow the Lawn, it's not hard to see why this thing bombed. The Gizmondo launched with a price of $400. For that, you could have easily gotten a PSP or DS with some games. Keep in mind, this was a handheld in 2005. There was a less expensive version that came with built-in advertisements.
I mean, on one hand, I'm appalled that a console with built-in advertisements was even considered. On the other hand, I'm betting some exec is looking at this and going, write that down!
Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that currently, since Steam banned games that ultimately had the advertisements like that. Don't think they'll ever enforce it, but the gesture's nice.
Allegedly, the servers that were supposed to play said ads were never activated, so... Whoops. There's also the fact that the CEO, Stefan Eriksson, was linked to the Swedish Mafia, further destroying this console's already terrible reputation. All these factors led to the Gizmondo being discontinued after less than a year, taking the manufacturer with it, and being the worst-selling handheld console.
In hindsight, I'm really not surprised that this thing failed. It used the same narration as B-movie.
According to all principles, it's too heavy for its wings. It just
yeah, internet meme.
But no one has told this to the bumblebee. So it flies and flies. He doesn't care much about principles, do you?
You like jazz?
Given how the licensed Nintendo properties on the CDI practically birthed a new art form, it's easy to forget that there was an actual console there. Sometimes Philips did the same. The CDI was definitely an interesting experiment. For starters, it was marketed as a multimedia system first, game system second. Gee, why does that sound familiar? As a game system, the CDI was, well, bad. Let's get the obvious thing out of the way first. The second controller port was on the back of the console. That's the kind of design flaw so blatant you swear it was done for the sake of it. And the controllers themselves were bizarrely designed. If you thought the N64 controllers were designed for alien hands, these seem to be designed for Lovecraftian horrors, one for each ultimate guy.
What the hell did they do to that
Controller.
While most of them were wireless and the wireless worked very well for something from 1994, none of them were conducive for gaming, especially with D-pads and joysticks that had little in the way of solid grip. A more dedicated gaming controller came out much later, but why would anyone want it at that point? For being one of the first CD-based consoles, the CDI had little to offer in terms of games. Most of them were limited to interactive museum tours or edutainment games. Of course, you can't talk about the CDI without mentioning the infamy that was the licensed Nintendo games. We've all seen the parodies. We've all seen the memes. So I'll sum it up like this. There's a very good reason Nintendo refuses to acknowledge these things.
It really makes you wonder why the creator bothered to take down the fan remake. Apparently it was because they were afraid of a cease and desist. You do realize that Nintendo would have to acknowledge that these games were made if that was the case, right?
I wouldn't underestimate Nintendo's lawyers. I mean, let's not forget this was the same company who literally went after a porn parody just so it wouldn't tarnish their name. I am dead serious, they actually did that.
The interesting thing about the CDI is that while it didn't do so well as an actual game console, it was still used in other ways, mainly as, well, a CD player. There were even classes of CDI.
Nightbot is a robot. Arguing with it is like arguing with a brick wall. Yeah, trust me, as someone who had to deal with AI, like chatbots for medical appointments, those things are freaking annoying to talk to. The sooner AI dies, the better.
Is designed for use as presentation hardware, so it's common to see businesses utilizing one of these. Heck, it was one of the first consoles to have online capabilities. They were far from stellar, but it was definitely bold for the time. In the end, the
no, just it's not generative AI, but it's definitely designed to moderate chats. So I guess in a sense it's programmed to be similar to AI.
CDI, while it did find a home in other formats, it was a pretty sucky game console. It was a nice beefy piece of hardware for the time, but it couldn't decide what it wanted to do or be. It tried to do...
Yeah, to be fair to the CDI, being a console wasn't exactly its primary objective, and it only pivoted that way because everyone wanted it to be a game console. It was basically kind of like the Kinect of its day. It's useful for literally everything except for what it was made for. Oh, that's cool.
Do everything, but excelled at none of it, which is far more than I can say for number one. Steambox wasn't great, but hard to say it ripped people off more than others on this list. PlayStation 3, one of the worst console launches and marketing campaigns, severely damaged Sony's reputation. Took forever for it to recover. Vanilla Xbox One recovered faster than the PS3, but still not launched though.
A launch that had its own video by Stop Skeletons from Fighting. Which, actually, yeah, maybe I should play that next, if we have time.
Phantom, can't really call it a failure if it's never released, but still worth mentioning. Wii U, confused marketing ruined a potentially innovative console. Tapwave Zodiac, great hardware and good games hindered by lack of funds. PlayStation Vita, great hardware and support by Sony, hindered by lack of games. Gamecom, bleeding edge tech at an affordable price, hindered by abysmal reputation and lack of games. Hyperscan, AVGN tears into this proto loot box e-reader better than I ever could.
Hyperscan.
This is it. The worst console of all time. Worse than the Stadia. Worse than the 5200. Worse than the Gizmondo. And worse than the dreaded CDI. Now, let us glimpse into what I have deemed the worst console of all time.
Yeah, this was actually what I was talking about previously, where when I brought up Bent the Sage's top 10 worst consoles you've never heard of. Both he and Joshscorcher actually have the exact same number one, and trust me when I say there is a very good reason it's number one.
Do not be fooled by its commonplace VCR appearance. Strap in.
This is the Laser Active. It was Pioneer's answer to the console that, at the time, was what they thought their greatest competition was. The Philips CDI. If you think that's funny, well, I hope you have a taste for the dark and or absurdist kind of humor, because otherwise we might see Twitter get it canceled. Remember how expensive the 3DO and Pippin were? Well, this was way worse. The base console on release was $900 in 1993. And you
Yeah, that's not an exaggeration, by the way. $900 in 1993. Even nowadays, that is a massive frickin' price tag.
You heard me. I said base, because for some reason, incomprehensible to even Cthulhu, this console decided to take a page out of Sega's book by adding a bunch of add-ons to the console. Called modules, these pieces of hardware allowed you to play games for the TurboGrafx-16 and Sega's Genesis and CD. Oh yeah, did I say take a page out of their book? I meant literally working with them to replicate their crappy add-ons for Pioneer's even crappier console. And they were $600 a piece in 1994! And
Okay, so, something I should also add that was also part of Bennett the Sage's video. Apparently, not only were those modules ridiculously expensive, you needed them to actually play the console. Yes, really. You have no idea just how bad this console actually is.
if that's good enough for you to make this the worst console, I'm not done. There were even more module add-ons. There was a module that cost $350 that allowed you to play karaoke games. Compare that to the Guitar Hero World Tour bundle, which had a game and a full band set that cost $189 in 2008. There was even a module that let you play floppy disks and supported Mac OS, so the Pippin's here too. But wait, there's more. They even created a 3D goggles module to allow for playing 3D supported games and work with the Sega Master System. And the adapter to use these goggles were sold separately. I swear this sounds really familiar. So not only did this thing use features from 4 other entries from this list and do them all worse, but also sold them at the price of a modern day mid-range gaming PC. Yep, I haven't even talked about the games yet. Most of the games are just quick time event games that required the modules to actually work. And the games cost $120 a piece. Remember how many people were mad about games costing $60 or $70 today? Yeah, you've seen nothing. Well, you're probably thinking with such a high price point for both the games and the console and not much to offer, it wouldn't sell well. And it didn't. Most places say that it only sold 10,000 units, but unfortunately, there isn't a verified source that gives us an actual number. That speaks a lot when a console failed so hard that we don't even know how little it sold.
Yeah, this console also only got an honorable mention from Guru Larry's own actually worth selling consoles list. And that's really only because he couldn't verify if the thing actually sold at all. It really speaks volumes, don't it?
Well, luckily for everyone, the Laser Active was discontinued in 1996. I think Pokemon, since that came out in the same year. With all of these issues, poor pricing, poor design, and a bad gaming catalog, the Laser Active is my choice for the worst console ever. And I'm so glad it isn't active anymore.
I'm the Fiery Joker, and I'm glad I never had to spend any money on these bad consoles. I just wish I could spend money on a good one.
I hate that joke aged well.
this is Josh. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share the video around. Please check out my other social media like my Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr. Check out my other channels such as Joshua Burner for reactions and other stuff, Dragon Fighter Gaming for tabletop, and Bob Equestria for cartoons. Consider checking below the video and donating to my Patreon, Streamlabs for my merchandise, or becoming a YouTube member. Thanks for watching.
Yep. Let's also watch. That was the top 15 worst consoles by Joshscorcher. Let's watch the bonus content. Hold on, I think I got it up here. Yep, there we go. Yep. We're watching a streamer on a stream.
Laser active.
We're going meta.
420,000. Okay, something's not right. Something's not right here, guys. It says 1 year later, after sales of roughly 10,000 units, but this thing says 420,000. 420k. That seems like an immature joke. Immature joke. Check the edit logs.
Well, there goes my monetization. Oh, am I kidding? This stream never gets monetized.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Ah, yeah, gotta enjoy deep fried meme songs.
Her price. Whoa! In 1993?
Oh my goodness!
Holy crap!
Yeah.
No way.
$970.93?
What was this? Separately sold add-on modules. Interesting. Wow.
God.
Wonder how much these packs were. What the hey? So, releasing a module for this laser active. You could play Sega CD and Genesis cartridges. $600! Why? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? Okay. Sega CD plus Sega Genesis. For $600 to plug into this weird laser active console. Why don't you just buy them separately? Sega, why do you constantly, when you make these all-in-one things, why are they always more expensive than buying them separately? That's not what an all-in-one is supposed to do! How did you survive in the console industry as long as you did? You should not have
I mean, they
survived
didn't.
this long.
To be fair.
A $600 freaking accessory! Yeah, Sega does what Nintendo don't. Wastes money! Wolfson, if I were the head of Sega, this was pitching my exact response to you. What are you smoking? Give me some and you're fired.
Oh, hey,
Am I in real life right now? Am I in real life? Is this real life or is this?
I'm watching a classic Joshscorcher moment. Yeah, no worries.
Gentlemen, I think we found the most expensive console. Do you know what the worst part is? We ain't done with this thing yet. What else? Oh no. There are other pack modules. We're not done, guys. Yeah, we ain't done. Oh my gosh. There's a karaoke module for $350. Let's see what we got here for $350. $650.
My grasp on sanity remains absolute.
Yep. A karaoke module for this thing cost $350 at the time, $647 adjusted for inflation. Adjusted for inflation, Guitar Hero World Tour barely cost a third of that. Wow. Now let's look at the other modules. Oh, the TurboGrafx 16 cost the same thing. Laser active 3D goggles. What the hey? What is this? Oh, they're battery powered glasses to sync with the. Oh, what the? Never heard of that kind of 3D before. No, wait. I can't be reading this correctly. I have to be mistaken. I have to be. Most of the exclusive games for this, you needed to buy. No, it's please tell me I'm mistaken, guys. Please tell me you don't need a lot of these modules to play. Oh, no. It can't be. It can't. It's they are not. The designers of this are not that stupid. They can't be.
They were. They were competing with the Philips CDI after all.
Is that, and there are modules that cost that. If I'm doing this correctly. In order to play games for this, adjusted for inflation, you would have had to pay almost $3,000 just to be able to play games that you could play. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know it wasn't made
And people
Sega,
thought the
but Sega's
PS5
got the
Pro was a
all over it.
horrible
Sega said
console.
yes to this. Yes, we are still
I mean, it still is, but still.
on the laser active. In order to play games on this thing, you needed the modules. So unless Wikipedia is lying to me, and let the record show that, you know, Wikipedia is not 100% reliable, though Laseractive was a better product in many ways than 3DO, it lacked software and the NEC and Sega control packs were too expensive. No!
Classic.
PlayStation 3, I am sorry I ever made fun of you. I am sorry I ever made fun of the PS3's price point. It could have.
Yeah. Except you, PS5. Fuck you, still.
been this. This is how bad it could have got. You know, just looking at all this, you really realize how far the industry has come. Like, just looking at how bad this was, how horrible this could have been. Just looking at what we got now, it really puts things into perspective. It's like, a lot of times you really just don't notice how lucky you are. You never really truly know what you have until you see people that didn't have what you have. And it really makes you thankful for what you do have. We got so mad at Sony for the $599 US. We got so mad for all of this. We get so mad for having to pay $60 for a new video game. We get so mad because of it could be this. It really could. I mean, yeah, it's not great, it's not amazing, but when you put things into perspective, things really could be a lot worse. It was not successful. Very poor marketing combined with a high price tag. I need to put this in the document. Less than 40 games at $120 each. No. 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 $221 nowadays for a single game from this thing. No.
My great
God.
insanity
That's a
remains
classic.
absolute.
Let's see, what next, actually? Let's go ahead and watch Joshscorcher's recent video of the top 10 worst villain songs. While I go ahead and line and color my PNG avatar.
This video is brought to you by Redneck Engineer, custom-built gaming PCs.
Yep, still playing through the ads. We're freebooting. It's only fair.
And make sure you don't have any coupon clipping extensions like Honey installed or I don't get my commission. Thank you! Hey, you know all those really good villain songs we talked about on the channel? Yeah. Oh boy. Sometimes, to appreciate the truly show-stopping numbers of the notoriously nefarious, you have to remember that the stars won't shine without dust and darkness all around them. Villain songs have a reputation for being the cream of the crop, but that tradition isn't always, consistently kept. Traits of the typical offenders are horrendously elementary and non-threatening lyrics, mediocre melodies, and overall trash storytelling that detracts from the actual flow of a given plot. All categories are eligible for this list, except fan-made villain songs. We're only going to be constructively criticizing professionals here. It's worth noting that, yes, a bad villain song in a piece of media with bad music is, well, bad, but it can be that much worse when the quality of the song is a significant...
Oh, hey, Mochi.
cave-in from the rest of the greater work. So, let the caving in begin!
It's all a good doggy. It's all a good doggy.
Picture this. You wake up one day and you find that on the news, a natural phenomenon is threatening life as we know it, and everyone is ordered to stay inside until the government figures out a way to protect its citizens. Political unrest ensues, people begin to blame their neighbor, and society falls into chaos as fear corrupts the minds of the entire nation.
I don't know, that just sounds like an average Tuesday in Los Angeles.
And the only one that can stop it is... SpongeBob SquarePants. Wait, what?
I'm SpongeBob.
Yep, what I just described to you is basically the plot of the SpongeBob musical, first written and staged nearly a decade ago. You know, I thought VeggieTales was the PG Simpsons. Admittedly, the musical itself is pretty goated. It provides a positive message that none of us knew we needed until 2020, and the songs are mostly very good. I say mostly because the weakest song is arguably Plankton's villain song. When the
Well, Schaefer else would disagree, but wouldn't be the first time.
Bikini Bottom into loving his chum. Lucky for him, the citizens are all collectively scared of the giant volcano that's going to consume them all, leaving them vulnerable to his plan. But he can't have characters like Sandy or SpongeBob spreading around hope. No, no, no! He needs to keep them scared. And how does he plan to do that? With rap.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I know this pick might be controversial for some, but wordplay is often what matters most in good rap. What guy here's like a boomer writing their first rap song? Oh, about that, you know how each song in the SpongeBob musical was written by a different artist in the music industry? This number was written by T.I., a hip-hop industry professional. Aside from the bare-bones lyrics, the instrumental isn't anything spectacular.
It's, I thought the song sounded better on the soundtrack CD, but I guess we can agree to disagree.
Spectacular either. Sounded like T.I. just used the default hip-hop beat in Logic Pro. You know you're doomed when your rap song opens with... Or maybe this is all just a brilliant testament to the fact that Karens don't understand rap. Heck, Plankton doesn't even give two shits about the volcano. It's just a means to get to his usual I want revenge against crab shtick.
You mean my Persona? Don't exactly have lore for it yet. I might eventually, though.
What a waste of potential. If you're gonna get this topical, have the villain song be about Bikini Bottom's overbearing government or the fear-mongering media like in No Control. He was actually pushing racism against Sandy before this. Make a song about that! Instead, we just get Volcano Bad, Fear Good, Be Scared, Eat My Chum, The Universe is a Hologram, Buy Gold. It's a shame because hip-hopping Broadway musicals can work. Oh, hello, Lynn. How'd you get here? But when the going gets tough, it's just an eye-rolling waste of an opportunity in what's otherwise a solid musical.
Good doggy. It's all at home. Good doggy. I'm the fucking Joker. I make fucking cool jokes.
Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. An intense, emotional, almost realistic look at the iconic clown prince of crime's descent into madness. Part of me wants to argue that it feels weird having the Joker without a certain masked foil, but on the other hand, the solid story in Phoenix's performance really helped give this movie a leg to stand on, really cementing how not just one, but several bad days can turn an average Joe into a monster.
And then it got memed to death, and everyone just... And the director ultimately, he made a completely shit sequel because of that. Okay, in reality, he just wanted to make a really terrible musical for reasons unknown. But still.
Wonder how many bad days people had when the sequel came out. Yep, because money talks, they made a sequel, Joker 2, Foyer à Deux. And it's what I'd like to call a jokebox musical. Because whoever greenlit this jukebox disaster was telling the world's worst joke.
Oh, brother,
Between the weird genre flip and Arthur's abrupt change of heart about his new status, despite fully embracing it at the end of the last movie, it's not a great start. But hey, I like musicals, so maybe the songs themselves will be okay. I mean, you got Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, because why not? What about Arthur himself? Maybe he'll surprise us.
There's always a joker in the pack, and everyone laughs when he's down.
I think I'm having a stroke.
Well, I'm definitely surprised, because Joaquin Phoenix can't sing.
You surprise me to how you are.
His singing is so warbly and croaky. It's like he's trying to convey some somber emotion, but he doesn't have the range to commit to it. It's like he's mostly mumbling throughout the song. To quote the man himself, he couldn't carry a tune to save his life. I don't know if I can really comment on the song itself or the visuals. Like, visually it's nice, but the shit between the courtroom scene and the song itself is really jarring. The lyrics are great, really fitting for Arthur's situation, but it's mostly because it's a cover, a soulless cover, and a soulless cash grab musical that grossly misunderstands DC's most iconic villain. TLDR, just stick to the first movie. Don't even bother with this one, especially if you love musicals.
Yeah, I consider the Dark Knight to be the true sequel anyways.
Good doggy. It's all at home. Good doggy.
Anyone who can't appreciate this deliciously wicked tune must have a heart that's 2 sizes too small. You may have noticed I neglected to mention the version on Glee. That was intentional. That was intentional. That was intentional. At first, you really have to ask yourself, why does everybody take a shot at Glee? They remember that the show is literally everything people hate about jukebox musicals. Its soundtrack consists entirely of covers, and to say that they sound royalty-free is an insult to royalty-free artists. And of course, for their Christmas special, A Very Glee Christmas, they paid homage to How the Grinch Stole Christmas. For context, Sue Sylvester, the batchy cheerleading coach, decides that she's gonna rig the faculty's Secret Santa gift exchange so that she gets all the presents. She does this in a Grinch costume with Becky as her Max, and that's when we get Sue the Grinch.
You're a mean one, Sue the Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus, you're as charming as an eel, Sue the Grinch.
Yeah, first problem.
I mean, it sounds like they're trying to go with low tempo,
Just sound like he's going
smooth jazz, but
come on, it's Glee. Second, the instrumentation is bare bones at best, lacking the booming and thunderous orchestra that really captured how deliciously evil.
Well, previously, I was reacting to the top 15 worst consoles list, and Joshscorcher's meltdown of number 1. Now I'm reacting to the top 10 worst villain songs because the video I wanted to react to next I couldn't find anymore. So yeah, that's basically the TLDR, Alex.
The original Grinch was. I go so far as to say the instrumental sounds like a MIDI orchestra, but that's too generous even for this song. Gone is the desire to sing along when you hear the seasick crocodile. And in its place is an electric guitar riff that's all teasing with no climax. I can't stress enough just how in one ear, out the other this version of the Grinch is. Seriously, just listen to the original Thurl Ravenscroft version side by side with the Glee version.
Oh, it was actually extremely popular back in the day. If you only ever watched the first season, anything beyond that, it was cringe. Like, complete cringe. Not just the halfway cringe that the later seasons ultimately had to be. Ah. Dang, updates. Man, that sucks. Alright. Good luck on that.
I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole.
I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole.
Notice how much personality Ravenscroft brings to his performance. You can tell from his delivery that he despises the Grinch as much as we do. In the Glee version, the singer sounds less appalled and more mildly annoyed. In fact, Sue the Grinch is so pathetically stale, I can't even think of much else to say about it. It's just that boring and forgettable. It's one thing to have a villain song that's memorable for all the wrong reasons. It's another to have a villain song so bland and devoid of soul that... wait, what was I talking?
I mean, I'd call it the Mofat Doctor Who of its day, but honestly, I don't think it was that level of cringe. Oh, yeah, I'm drawing a PNG of him. Yeah, I'm making a PNG avatar of him since I don't know, I actually just kind of had the idea earlier and decided to just run with it this stream.
Talking about? Oh, yeah, that's right. So the Grinch sucks! And again, Glee is completely cursed. Seriously, 3 actors from it died in really effed up ways. And another one wasn't acting.
Good doggy.
Ah, dang it. Dang. Hold on. Oh, Christ. I forgot Lee Michelle pulled a Colleen Ballinger.
Acting.
Good doggy. It's all at home. Good doggy.
Alrighty.
Remember Biggering? That scrapped villain song for Illumination's lyrics that would have given us a compelling portrayal of the Onceler's downward spiral into temptation and greed? Yeah, this is what they replaced it with.
How bad can I be? How bad can I
Yeah, I'm still pissed off by that fact. There are typically two crowds of the Lorax. Those who haven't heard of biggering, and those who have heard of biggering.
Possibly be.
Yep, no melancholic rock opera for us. Instead, we get a generic, ear-grating pop song that not only treats the subject of corporate greed like a joke, but also half the Onceler's role as the antagonist, so everything he does here can be passed off as redeemable.
Onceler's not the villain, guys. He's just a victim of circumstance. Blame his family. They're the real bad guys.
It'd be one thing if that's all the song has going for it, but it has the gall to take some of the original lyrics from Biggering and then take all the teeth out of them. Heck, Biggering itself became just another lyric that they breeze over. And then there's this.
And the animal that doesn't, well, the animal that doesn't winds up someone else's. La 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 la.
Oh, glorious irony. A song criticizing corporate consumerism is written to be as safe and unsarcastically corporate as possible, even down to censoring this lyric.
Who cares if a few trees are dying?
Oh yeah, changing some things to a few trees, yeah.
Okay.
Comes across as downplaying Onceler's lack of empathy by framing the situation as a meaning well.
Yeah. Of course, the Onceler fandom did eventually die out. I don't actually remember who they replaced him with. Nor do I really care, to be honest.
Come on, he didn't want to hurt anyone. He just wanted to cut down a few trees. But oh no, he got a wee bit careless and cut everything down. Poor guy.
Because heaven forbid we actually make him pragmatic or realistic, am I right? The subject of greed became less of a cautionary tale and more just a flaw for the character to get over. Suddenly, How Bad Can I Be doesn't sound like a mockery of Onceler's narcissism anymore. They really do insist he isn't that bad. Heck, even if you put all that aside, the song would still be on the list for the obnoxious close-ups, tactless visuals, and the singer trying way too hard to sound hip by scratching his voice at every emphasis. Can we get him a lozenge? I remember seeing a comment that said, biggering is what actually happened. This song is what Onceler told us happened. Considering the character's known for making excuses, I can buy that. Song still sucks though. Yeah, I know this song has a fan base, both ironic and unironic, and I'm not trying to disrespect you here, but I just really don't like this song. To me, it's professionally made art assassination, and I just can't pretend it isn't frustrating. For those who treasure the source material, it's...
Yeah, that's kind of why it was so infuriating that they scrapped the song. The Lorax was basically a very dark Dr. Seuss story. So why not give it a dark song? Seriously, the more you learn about the Lorax, the more you tend to hate it.
It's an insult. And for those who don't, it's corporate schloppity schlop that doesn't paint them a good picture of what the Lorax speaks for.
At least we still have the fan animatic.
Making a villain protagonist is a surprisingly hard thing to get right. You have to make them interesting to follow in some way, and that's more complicated than it sounds.
Oh, hey, Connor's Adventures.
But if you're not going to give them any likable traits, you can try to make them entertaining or give them an interesting story to keep people wanting to watch the character. The Grinch perfectly encapsulates this format. Why do I bring all this up? Oh, I gotta talk about this. 8 Crazy Nights is what happens when Adam Sandler wipes his ass with the Grinch format. It's crass, weirdly unfunny, and the songs are...
I wonder if that guy ever wiped his ass with the wrong hand.
Yes.
meme material, I guess. Davy, the protagonist, is a
It's too
self-centered
cringe for
grouch who
meme
hates the holidays,
material.
but unlike the Grinch, his shenanigans are just mean-spirited and filled with edgy humor. And the song Technical Foul puts that in the limelight. Why is the song so bad? Well, it's Adam Sandler singing it as three characters: Davy, Whitey, and Eleanor. One of them is his regular voice, which is great. He's a good singer. But the other two...
If you touch the thermostat, you'll get hit with a bat. 'Cause that's a technical foul. You will feel my wrath.
I am actually preferring nails on a chalkboard here. But even if you take away how the voices sound, if you could call it that, what they're saying isn't exactly poetry.
Can I sleep past 3?
If you do, you'll get a T.
Take a whiz in those flowers.
I'll say hit the shower.
Use this horn as a bomb.
Adios, Tommy John.
Make some long distance calls.
You'll get a kick in the ball, dude.
It's just Davey listing ways he wants to mooch off Whitey or otherwise be a nuisance, and it's not fun to listen to. With other villain songs, or at least villainous protagonists, they at least try and make them entertaining, but Davey is just unpleasant. Whether it be the voice or the personality, everyone in this song just sounds bad. Oh, sure, the instrumental is good, but am I really going to a villain song for the instrumentals? Okay, touche. Put simply, this song in our books gets a technical foul.
Honestly, I think even Joshscorcher's impression of Whitey's more pleasant to listen to.
It's all in all good doggy. And now, curtain up on Spider Monster, the musical.
Oh man, remember Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark?
Yeesh, even Sesame Street knew this thing was doomed, but they were too nice to say it. Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was fucking hilarious, honestly. When Sesame Street considers your musical cringe, you should probably throw in the towel. Which they did.
Turn Off the Dark was, something. A grand, big-budget attempt at turning a certain wall crawler into a Broadway musical. Inspired by the equally camp Sam Raimi films, naturally. And give it credit, there was more heart put into it than this train wreck. But it still suffered majorly behind the scenes. Delays, cast and crew changes, a bloated budget they somehow overshot, and disastrous stunt accidents. The leading man for Spidey himself ended up in the hospital after one went wrong. Really wrong. So, suffice to say, this is a rather infamous chapter in Broadway history. But as for the songs themselves, and that's probably the worst thing a Broadway musical can be. Nothing special, nothing to write home, but hey.
Yeah, it was interesting little fact that the music for Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark was actually written by U2. And I'm pretty sure the fact that no one remembers who U2 is, it kinda says everything. I remember them being all over the internet back in the day because of their success on MySpace, but I never fucking listened to them. If only because I didn't have a MySpace. If you're wondering what kind of power MySpace had back in the day, you gotta keep in mind Blood on the Dance Floor actually gained a fan base because of it. Yeah, the band that is known for some of the worst music you've ever heard, led by a singer who is a serial sex offender. It gained a fan base. Then again, it also catered to the scene kid audience, so could also explain it. And at least Darby Vanity wasn't in Watkins, so. And again, I suppose that comparison is like saying getting shot in the head is less preferable than getting a brain tumor.
At least your insomnia won't be a problem after hearing this soundtrack. Arguably, the biggest offender is Sinisterio, the song playing during the Sinister Six's rampage. Visually, it's a colorful fever dream. Musically, it's... oh, it's a mess.
Yeah, I'm gonna be blunt. This song is definitely not Freak Like Me. He needs company. I mean, for as mediocre as that song is, at least that had a ton of camp added to it.
Lyrics. Now come thoughts that you shall not banish. Breath of our breath with no blood or bone. It's like they're a wannabe poet trying to sound profound after getting the munchies at 2 a.m. The
Nah, Poets of the Fall actually made some good shit. This is just YouTube. Basic YouTube block.
Psychedelic music does nothing to help it and just makes me want to take a nap after this. Spidey has one of the best rogues galleries in comic book history, and they deserve better than this snooze fest. Don't know what else I can say. Bad song, bad musical. Probably for the best to stay buried. And take these with it.
Good doggy. It's all at home. Good doggy.
I'm sure by now you've all noticed that we've been avoiding a lot of the really famous low-quality shovelware songs. You know, your money is such a beautiful word and grandma gonna sue the pants off of Santa. The problem with these songs is that there are so many of them to go off of and they all share the same issues. Bad lyrics and a lack of singing talent due to unprofessional direction. Considering you can fill up the list with just these songs alone, it feels lowbrow. But if we are going to pick one for the list, we gotta go big. We gotta pick one that defines all of them in a single hilariously awful package. And ladies and gentlemen, we definitely got one.
Years from now, no one will bother to recall your good King Arthur, because all of this will be mine!
Okay, let's get one thing clear. This is barely a song. Ruber's maniacal villain song from Quest for Camelot throws away everything about basic songwriting and comes across more like incoherent drunken rambling. No, like actually, Gary Oldman reportedly had some of that liquid courage flowing through his veins while recording this song to better get into Ruber's deranged headspace. Mission failed successfully. There is no beat to this song. There is no consistent rhythm. Every time you think you know how it's gonna go, it just drifts further off the rails into complete insanity.
In the back of your wagons, my men will all hide. You'll sit up front as the gates open wide. Now watch me create my mechanical army with pride.
Like, what do I say about this? Genuinely, it speaks for itself. Oh, let's not forget the sudden lore drop of this potion he brought from some witches, which Rupert uses to create his army. In fact, he seems so amused by his new creations that he starts humming what little melody the song has, which implies it's diegetic? And And then it's back to Ruber ranting and raving, presumably coked up out of his mind as he creates the rest of his army, who, in their dark, evil chanting, sound completely and utterly bored. Bring on the darkness, bring on the... Hey, Barry, you know when we're getting paid for this? Ruber makes sure to give a grand speech containing only 3 words.
I need mine!
As his minions seemingly perform an interpretive dance with him. What, do you have a better explanation for the chaos on screen? Please, we're waiting to hear it! Truthfully, the so bad it's good elements of Ruber, yes, they phoned it in so much the name of the song is just his name, make it hard to hate. Heck, if you're drunk too, it's a laugh riot all the way through as you wonder how any of this could pass for anything close to music. In a weird way, they struck gold here, but the fact it's barely a song still means it's eligible for this list. It's about the only...
Yeah, the most interesting thing about Rupert, the song I mean, is it was immediately followed up by a very good song. Like, a song that everyone kept performing at shows. And the song also had nothing to do with the movie that was attached to. The song was called The Prayer. It's actually pretty good, but I'd be damned if I actually knew what it had to do with anything.
The only thing Quest for Camelot has that stands out. The rest of this movie isn't nearly this interesting. But oh, Ruber, the absolute crown jewel of so bad it's good.
Good doggy.
Oh, also one more infamous fact about Ruber, the villain this time. Apparently, according to the original story his character was based off of, he was actually a rapist. Yes. It kind of makes a lot of his acting feel a lot darker in hindsight.
It's all at home. Good doggy.
Question. Am I a part of the Wish fandom if I like everything except the movie? Discuss in the comments. Ugh, this again. I'm not sure I can complain about the animated abomination before God known as Wish regarding anything that hasn't already been said. But that's okay. Repeat complaints will only emphasize the flaws that deserve to be pointed out, especially this movie's horrid excuse for a villain song, This Is the Thanks I Get. Yes, the lyrics are garbage. Don't align with the music. But the lyrics aren't bad just because they're clunky and elementary. They're bad because they don't reflect Magnifico. And they propel the story forward about as much as a mattress can propel a bullet train. Villain song or not, any piece in a theatrical setting needs movement. It must lyrically make sense as to who's singing it. There needs to be evidence of what is being sung, or reason to believe it will happen. Or maybe the lyrics secretly do work, because there's no actual decent plot to move in the first place. Never mind, Wish is genius, you can all go home. Disney's fruitless attempt to make Magnifico a hodgepodge of every other villain to make him...
Yeah, this movie was alleged to have been made with generative AI, but I honestly don't have any evidence of this. So, until we actually get the smoking gun, it's just a really bad movie that was rushed. It's basically the Sonic 06 of Disney movies. Hey, holy shit, it actually is Sonic 06 of Disney movies.
The most evil villain of all is evident in the tone of this song, which is some flavorless conglomerate that Gordon Ramsay would probably swear at. Somehow, to this book, I don't want to be tethered, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and peep the name I'm magnificent are two parts of the exact same song.
Pick an eye, babe. I can't concentrate on what I'm saying if you keep... Yeah, pick one. Pick one.
Now, there's nothing wrong with more contemporary lyrics that use slang, and nothing wrong with more rhythmic songs than melodic ones. But you gotta make a choice. Either go all the way with the pop groove, or stick with the classical evil eloquence. But don't go mixing ammonia with bleach because we're all choking right now. Like, okay, here's a thought. You know how Sticker Star is a pretty mediocre game on its own, but it goes from mediocre to bad when you consider how exquisite the 3 prior Paper Mario games were? Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, it's still a pretty bad game on its own.
This song isn't quite rock bottom if it stands alone as some odd Lin-Manuel Miranda wannabe theater anthem, but, remind me what villain songs came before this one?
Like fire, hellfire. I got voodoo, I got hoodoo, I got things I ain't even tried. When I was a lad, I ate 4 dozen eggs.
Oh yeah, that's right. Excellence happened back then. There's no better way to amplify the lack of quality in your villain's soliloquy than standing it next to its predecessors. Well, even though the song is a huge stain on the Disney villain bloodline, I'll give it this. Chris Pine really dug into his performance. His vocals are actually very good, and bad song or not, he ran with what he had. This was the villain song that helped us come up with this video in the first place. After which came out and cursed us all with this cacophony, that's when the music world began to halt worshipping villain music for a moment to recognize that it's not always like that. This is the bad villain song. And yet, there's worse. Help. People keep telling me I need to take it easy with ripping into Disney. They need to stop giving me reasons to.
Good doggy. It's all at home. Good doggy.
Some of my older viewers are probably wondering where my Kingdom Hearts jar went. Now you know. Okay. I can do this. While I wish that This Is the Thanks I Get was the worst Disney villain song. Wait, was that supposed to be a bit? No, I'm not saying haha, get it. I said which. Anyway, Kingdom Hearts 2 has a worse one. And you know what it is. So, hit it.
Jeez, I hate that saying.
This witch is back to bring her wrath upon the sea. Triton can't be rid of me, not that easily. And like all who dare defy me, he will learn his lesson well. Never toy with a girl like me.
The Little Mermaid is far from a perfect movie, especially when compared to the original novel. But it really got shafted in its Kingdom Hearts adaptations. The first game didn't have the best controls, and fighting Ursula was a nightmare. This time it's a rhythm game, and I need an aspirin. Okay, there's nothing wrong with Ursula's singing voice itself, but since the whole section needs to revolve around a game, a lot of the lyrics feel out of tune to make way for the reaction commands in between.
Flotsam and jetsam. Royal darling, strong as the tide, sweet as poopsies, hasten to my side right now. Mommy needs you, crush those stupid fools, make them ride.
Sweetest poopsie. You chose to put that in the song. Yeah, I know they're adapting the final fight with Ursula, but there had to be a better way to do this. Sora and the others seem even more out of place than usual, with their biggest contribution being killing said poopsies, and Sora going,
Sorry, Mommy, your poopsies are toast.
At least it's short. And we still get the scene after where Eric launches the trident right through Ursula. Still, even with the trench-deep standard of KH2 Atlantica, this song stands out as both pointless and annoying. It doesn't help that the actual rhythm commands can be even more strict than usual, causing a lot of failures for some poor children. If I didn't need to do this world to get Blizzaga and Orichalcum, I would just drown out the songs with some good old-fashioned rules of nature.
This is not the end, my dears, I swear I've just begun.
It made a more sinister reprise of Poor Unfortunate Souls, to be honest. Or maybe add a deleted song. I never actually looked up if they had deleted songs. Then again, this was the game that gave us Swim This Way, so I guess that's already a bit of a tall order.
It's not over until Ursula has won.
But yeah, this is the worst Little Mermaid song ever.
Are you sure about that?
Really?
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 Well, what do you think of this then?
Wake up, wake up, wake up!
Good doggy. It's all at home. Good doggy.
I Can Change. South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. It's definitely not Blame Canada. Master of the Seas, Ice Age 4. It's a badly sung and poorly written sea shanty. Didn't know I'd find one, and I'm disappointed. The Duchess I Shall Be, the Loud House movie. This movie didn't need to be a musical. It shouldn't have been a musical. Oh gosh, why was it a musical? Mark it up. Repo the Genetic Opera. It's ugly nonsense, but I guess some people got a kick of how surreal it is. The Ballad of Stryker, hell of a boss. Remember when Stryker was a cool villain? You have all my condolences.
I mean, to be fair, the Ballad of Stryker was supposed to be a bad song. I mean, Stryker explicitly hated it in the Hell of a Boss show. So you definitely know it was supposed to be bad.
All aboard the toxic gossip train. You're chugging down the tracks of misinformation.
I wish. But this is a list of fictitious villains. At least with this one, you can meme about her digging her own grave. You got
I personally prefer the villain song that was sung during that interpretive dance, but yeah, to each his own.
less enjoyment from this one.
No, not that one.
You know, in hindsight, maybe I was a bit too harsh on MLP A New Generation.
Oh, really?
Because the actual Gen 5 shows were somehow even worse. Like, it had some interesting ideas that could have worked. But no, it's cookie color schlock, talks down to its audience, dangles ideas but barely delivers, and tries to force itself to be canon to its much better predecessor, but without any of the heart that drew the original audience in. And of course, partly at the center of this disaster is her.
When I walk past a mirror, I scare myself. I'm the queen of mean. Don't care about any pony other than me. Isn't that lovely?
That's really, I'm the bad guy.
Baddie of Gen 5. Nothing too deep about her. She's an evil alicorn who wants all the magic for herself. They tried to make her laughably incompetent and menacing at the same time. She's not charming enough to pull off either. And if the IDW comics are anything to go by, she's the catalyst that causes the great divide between the ponies.
I mean, to be fair, the IDW comics are kind of dubious when it comes to canon. Especially since they had a really good backstory for Sombra, and they just blatantly retconned it. Ah, well. Story arc for that was pretty mixed anyways.
Kinda weird they we barely mentioned that in the show, considering it's what kick-started canonized Fallout Equestria. You may notice I'm ranting more about the gen itself instead of the song. Well, that's because the song is a big ol' nothing sandwich with a side order of corporate mandate. Just for context, Opaline has 2 dragons captured and is using the Dragon Stone to hypnotize them. Then she starts singing a villainous lullaby, talking about how awesome and devious she is. And that's literally it.
I'm a villain. I'm a villain. Darling, I'm a villain. Don't you cry now, it will all be fine.
Yeah, The fact that your chorus has the lyrics, I'm a villain, without backing it up, means you've already lost the argument. I'll say this at least, she's a decent singer. That's one positive thing I could say about G5. These actors are trying. So are the singers, but the material they're working with is just hot garbage. The music sounds like keyboard tutorial pop. The lyrics lack any sort of punch and are completely disconnected. As for the performance, she tries to come across as sinister and slinking, but she's putting too much improper syllable emphasis. This is something you see in fan songs, not professional ones. And even then, some fan songs actually manage to avoid sounding like this track. See the countdown here. Let's do a comparison, shall we? A bombastic, Broadway-esque duet with one singer flawlessly singing 2 parts. A zany tango with a trio of baddies trying to get along. A creepy yet upbeat propaganda tune. A haunting pop song reveling in a trio success. And this? Look at me, I'm evil, I'm scary, rawr, I guess. I know, it doesn't seem fair comparing Gens 4 and 5, but they're gonna try and force a connection between them. I'm gonna compare them. She sings another song in the YouTube shorts and I guess the music is slightly better, but it's the same freaking thing. All talk, no showmanship. I've argued that this being aimed at kids is no excuse for poor quality.
Oh, hey Jerome.
Quality before, and I stand by that argument. This song, heck, G5 in general really does show the stark downfall of MLP and how much the mandates don't benefit the series at all. And considering the caliber
It was kind of bound to fall anyways.
Seeing it drop this much really does make it
The
worth
dig was gonna
as the
come in anyway.
worst villain song. I'm Joshscorcher.
Eventually.
Yeah, I know this got depressing, but more great villain songs are on the way. As long as copyright lets us.
Where's my money?
Alright. So that was the Joshscorcher's top 10 worst villain songs. I think I'm probably just gonna go. Gonna color the rest of this in silence. I was done with it anyways.